Ethan Cole was 24 years old, broke, and exhausted. Life had not been kind to him. He worked double shifts at a mechanic's shop, slept in a tiny rented room that smelled of damp, and carried more debt than he could count. His father had passed away. His mother lived 2 states away, barely surviving herself. And Ethan was simply trying to keep his head above water. One winter evening, after his shift ended, Ethan walked through the city streets with just a single dollar left in his pocket. It wasn't even enough for a bus ride home. He shoved his hands into his jacket to keep warm and muttered to himself, $1, and rent's due tomorrow. Perfect. As he crossed the park, he noticed a man sitting on a bench. The man's hair was tangled, his coat torn, his face hidden under a hood. A battered cardboard sign rested against his knees. Hungry, cold, please help. The man coughed into his hands. His body shook with the kind of shiver that isn't from just cold, but from hunger and weakness. Ethan slowed his steps. He had nothing, absolutely nothing to give. That single dollar was the last thread keeping him tied to tomorrow, but something in the man's eyes made him stop. The man looked up, and for a moment Ethan saw not a stranger, but someone's father, someone's son, someone who could have been him, if life had pushed just a little harder. Ethan pulled the dollar from his pocket. He stared at it for a long second, his throat dry. Then he pressed it into the man's hands. "It's all I've got," Ethan whispered, "but maybe it'll get you something warm." The man's eyes filled with tears. He tried to speak, but his voice cracked. "Thank you," he croaked. "You've just saved me." Ethan nodded, gave a faint smile and walked away, telling himself not to regret it. That night he went to bed hungry. Days passed. Ethan forgot about the encounter. He had bigger problems: overdue bills, extra shifts, and a landlord threatening eviction. But then on a rainy Thursday evening, a knock came at his door. Ethan frowned. He wasn't expecting anyone. He opened the door and froze. It was the homeless man. Only, he didn't look homeless anymore. His hair was washed, his beard trimmed, and his clothes, though simple, were clean. He looked almost like a different person. "Do you remember me?" the man asked softly. Ethan's mouth went dry. I gave you $1. The man smiled. "You gave me hope when no one else would." Ethan blinked, confused. "But why are you here?" The man's eyes flickered with something deep, something heavy. He stepped inside, looking around the tiny room with its peeling paint and cracked ceiling. "My name is Henry," he said finally, "and I wasn't just homeless. I was hiding." Ethan frowned. "Hiding?" Henry nodded. 3 years ago, I walked away from everything. From a company, from money, from people I thought were my friends. They were trying to destroy me, so I left it all behind. I wanted to see if there was any kindness left in the world without wealth. Most people walked past me. Most people didn't even look. But you gave your last dollar to a stranger." Ethan just stared. "Wait, are you saying you're rich?" Henry chuckled, shaking his head. "Richer than I deserve to be. But I needed to know if I could still trust humanity. If there were people who gave without expecting anything in return. You did." He reached into his coat and pulled out an envelope. He placed it on the table between them. Ethan opened it and nearly collapsed. Inside were checks. More zeros than he had ever seen in his life. Enough to erase his debts, pay for college, buy a home, and still have something left. "I don't want repayment," Henry said firmly. "I want you to live, to build, to never lose the heart that made you give when you had nothing." Ethan was speechless. His hands shook as he held the envelope. Henry smiled gently. "Sometimes when you save a man, you don't realize who he truly is. You thought you gave $1, but what you gave was worth far more. And now, it's my turn." He placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder, squeezed it once, and left. Ethan ran after him, but when he stepped into the hallway, Henry was gone. No footsteps, no sound, just the faint smell of rain. That night, Ethan sat staring at the envelope. He thought of the moment he'd given away his last dollar, how foolish he had felt, and yet it had led to this. A miracle he couldn't explain, a secret that still made no sense. And as he drifted to sleep, he realized something. The dollar he gave wasn't the miracle. The miracle was that he gave it freely. Ethan didn't sleep much that night. The envelope of checks sat on his desk like a dream he was afraid to touch. He wondered if he had imagined it all. The knock, the man, the story. By dawn, curiosity overcame fear. He took one of the checks to the bank. His hands trembled as he slid it across the counter. The teller scanned it, paused, and her eyes widened. She disappeared into the back office. Ethan's heart pounded. Minutes later, a manager returned with her. He gave Ethan a long look and then smiled. "Mr. Cole," he said, "this check is more than valid. In fact, do you know who Henry Whitmore is?" Ethan shook his head. The manager leaned closer. "He's one of the wealthiest men in the state. He owns companies, properties, foundations, everything. And this check was signed by him personally." Ethan nearly dropped to the floor. The man he had thought was homeless was one of the richest men alive. But why him? Why had Henry chosen him? That evening, Ethan rushed back to the park bench where he'd first seen Henry. But the bench was empty. Days passed. He searched shelters, charities, even police records. Nothing. Henry had vanished like smoke. It was as if he had only appeared to test Ethan's heart, and once the test was done, he returned to the shadows. Months passed and Ethan's life transformed. He paid his debts. He moved into a small but warm apartment. He returned to school at night, studying engineering, the dream he had abandoned years ago. But he never spent recklessly. He never forgot the cold night when he had only $1. And he never forgot Henry's words, "You gave me hope when no one else would." So Ethan made a vow. For every blessing he received, he would pass it forward. Quietly, without cameras, without recognition, he started helping others the way he once wished someone had helped him. He paid overdue rents for strangers. He filled grocery carts for single mothers. He slipped cash into the hands of the homeless, never asking their names, never waiting for thanks. And in every act of kindness, he felt Henry's presence, as if the man were still watching, still guiding him. 1 year later, on another rainy evening, Ethan walked through the same park. The bench where he had first met Henry was still there. And for just a moment, he thought he saw him. A tall man in a clean coat, smiling faintly, watching from a distance. Their eyes met. Ethan froze. But when he blinked, the figure was gone. Was it real, or just his imagination? He never knew. But one thing was certain. The stranger he had once saved had saved him in return. And that secret, the truth about Henry, would stay with him forever. Kindness never goes unnoticed, even if it seems small. Sometimes the poorest act of generosity leads to the richest rewards. You never truly know who you are helping, or how your kindness might come back to you. Moral lessons of the story. 1. True kindness comes from sacrifice. Ethan gave when he had almost nothing. That's what made his act powerful. 2. You never know who you are helping. A person who looks poor today may carry a story, a destiny, or an influence far greater than you imagine. 3. Small acts create great ripples. Even a single dollar given with a genuine heart can change lives in ways you could never predict. 4th, character is revealed in hard times. It's easy to give when you have plenty. The real test is whether you can share when you have little. 5. Blessings return in unexpected ways. Good deeds have a way of finding their way back to us, sometimes in the most surprising and miraculous forms. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this beautiful story, please drop a like on the video and leave a comment on your favorite part of the story, moral lessons, and so on your notification bell so that you can get notified anytime a new and interesting video is released. If you believe in second chances, if you believe scars can become symbols of strength, share this story. Let it reach someone who's still fighting their past. Subscribe to my channel, Folktales by Queen Mother, for more real African stories that inspire, transform, and live forever in your heart. Please be rest assured that if you support me by liking, commenting, and subscribing to my channel, you will always stay motivated. It has not been easy getting here, but I really appreciate all of you who always watch my videos to the end. It's a lot of hard work, days of sleepless nights before one of these videos you watch on this channel is produced. I am counting on your support always to take this channel to the top. Thank you once again for your unwavering love and support. God bless you all.